There's two videos I wanted to make this week, and this is neither of them. I can't see a thing with these. I've been excited about this model release ever since it was announced. And thanks to Atomic Mass Games being absolute legends, it turned up on my doorstep yesterday, while I was right in the middle of finishing up a video that should have come out this week. But at that exact moment, I told both Common Sense and Impulse Control to go fuck itself. So I went balls deep and cranked this out in a single night for no other reason than just pure enjoyment. And this video. Now, I've been a big Xmen fan since I was a kid, so I want to do something that's somewhat true to the original. And I know what you're thinking. If it's supposed to be green and you want to say true to the original, why are you starting with purple? Keep in mind, I said somewhat. Green and purple are a fantastic combination. But when mixed together, they will also cancel each other out. And we're going to use that to our advantage. We're going to start with purple in the shadows and we're going to build up to our green. And just like every other video on the channel, when we're building from a deep dark color all the way up to our brightest brights, we're going to go in half steps. Which means every new color that's introduced is going to be mixed 50-50 with the previous color to create the next layer. This is going to do two things in this case. One, it's going to help soften the transitions as we build up. And two, because we're using purple and green tones and they're going to cancel each other out and make a chromatic gray, this is actually going to help us tie it all together so they blend. And for the record, the color that you're seeing right now is that chromatic gray that I've been talking about. Even now, as it's being pushed on top of the Terrestrial Titan and Diabolic Plum, it's creating a whole bunch of visual interest. And even though it is somewhat of a strange color to think of when you go purple and green, this is absolutely what is going to tie these two things together. Because it's going to blend back into the purple and up into the green. And as we keep powering through, when those two colors finally come into play together, this third option in here, that chromatic gray, is going to give us an iridescent feel. You got something just here. Yeah. Be honest, you wiped your nose, didn't you? If you've been keeping up with the channel lately, you know that we've been painting a lot of Gundam. And in that process, we've been focusing more on applying transferable skills and altering technique. Which means we haven't really been able to play with a lot of different colors and a lot of different ideas. It'll come, but we've just got to get the basics down first. And that probably plays a massive part as to why I was so excited to get this model that I just jumped in both feet and half shaft. And honestly, that's something that I would highly encourage. This hobby, any hobby, is supposed to be relaxing, exciting, fun, and everything in between, all at the same time. And while we might have other projects or just life things in general going on, try and carve out that time to do something that you are genuinely excited for right then and there. Also, yes, we're up to the Emerald Forest part to put in this really nice, bright, vibrant, yellowy green. And even though traditionally her suit is more of a hyper-saturated green that you would generally think about, there's a reason that I wanted to lean a little bit more into the yellowy greens. And that's so we can start tying tones together. Now I'm thinking about the model as a whole and not just each individual section. And you'll see what I mean when we get up to the next section. As far as color and light placement goes, we're still using that same old volumetric highlighting in layers. If you think of your colors in forms of brightness instead of hue, it becomes a lot easier to think about. The purples are our shadow tones. That weird intermediate chromatic gray became somewhat of a mid-tone. It was almost like a precursor to. The green becomes our actual mid-tone because that's what we want to read it as, and then all of our highlights on top become the actual highlights. Just because we're using different colors to represent the different layers doesn't mean that the basic theory doesn't change with placement. At this point, I think we all know that I'm an Army Painter Factory team member. You what? Why didn't you say anything? It's not like you name drop it every chance you get. Shut up. Yeah, I wonder what's next. You gonna drop a discount code for the Army Painter in in-games and tell everybody that there's a link in the description? Like they don't expect that from every fucking video on YouTube now. No, I was gonna say that they look nice today. Oh. Go on. Use code HERESY5 at the Army Painter and in-games. You son of a bitch. Now with the green all wrapped up, we're gonna move into the boots, belts, and gloves. As far as the source material goes, it's supposed to be yellow, and we're going yellowy-ish. And here's where we start thinking about the model as a whole and tying in all of those different colors. Even though we're building up to yellow, we're still going to start with a Terrestrial Titan base coat, just like we did for the green. And again, just like everything else we do, every time we step up in color, we're going to be mixing the previous color to help transition. So yeah, if you've ever wanted to paint a realistic Mr. Hanky, it's Terrestrial Titan and Sunburst Ochre. And if you don't know who Mr. Hanky is, he's a character from South Park. If you're not familiar, I would suggest starting with the first episode of the latest season. And yes, at this angle, the green jumpsuit does kind of look like the Technicolor color changing t-shirts from the 90s. Now that we've finally built up to a pure form of that Sunburst Ochre, I think you can kind of tell where we're going with this. Adding in a little fiendish yellow to kind of transition into the next spot, we're still going to be picking out the same kind of volumes and levels and all that kind of bullshit. Because what we're looking for now is sort of a non-metallic metal gold. I'm not really intending this to read as a metallic gold by the time we're done, and I'm going to show you a few little things to avoid that. But I do want a yellow that's going to kind of fold into the yellows in the greens of the suits and not really stand out quite as much. So for now, just think about it as if you're painting non-metallic metal gold. And if you haven't done that before, this is a pretty good way to start thinking about non-metallic metal gold. Even though we're using the same colors and same steps for a non-metallic, we don't want it to read as that. And the way that we're going to change that around is just by flattening out some of the highlights. Instead of building to a bright sharpened point, we're going to pull it all back and flatten it out. That means our highlighting layers are going to take up more space and blend black smoother instead of just sitting on top. And the big thing that we're going to leave out so it doesn't read as a non-metallic metal is bounce lights. Bounce lights and reflections are really what sell that non-metallic metal feel. So by leaving those out and flattening out the highlights, we're going to avoid that whole shiny mess. But we're going to be able to keep all the contrast and dynamism from using the same recipe. And no, I'm not overly worried about smoothness. This is for fun, not for display. Not everything has to be a masterpiece. Quick little interrupt, we have a brand new channel called Only Dams with bi-daily vlogs if you wanted to check it out. It's pretty different from this channel with the tutorials and the shorts. It's actually kind of a downer. Know what? Don't check it out, forget I said anything, let's go back to the video. So far we got the big stuff done, so we're just going to jet through the hair and the skin pretty quick. Again, I want to marry all of these tonal ideas together so everything is starting with a base coat of Terrestrial Titan. When it comes to painting hair for redheads, gangers, gingers, and the masses of the soulless, there's kind of two ways you can go about it. One is you just dive straight into orange. And that's fine if you want to paint comic book style or early Paramore fan art. But because this has already taken on a very different look as far as stylistically, we went with something a little different. All of the undertones are going to be a very deep, saturated version of red. And as we move up through the highlights, I'm going to start adding in desaturated yellow tones to bring us into that weird mix of orange. And because we've already built up some pretty wild contrast with the yellows and the greens, we're going to keep that running with the hair. So instead of treating it like hair and trying to paint in strands and texture, I'm going to be treating every single fold basically like non-metallic metal. I'm going to be pushing in quick jumps and sharp highlights in between our layers. And any peak or prominent fold, I'm going to be giving the most attention to. But because this is hair, it's long hair and it's surrounding the face, we are going to want to start to try and draw the attention to the face. Which means our main highlighting is going on top and the direct surrounds either side of it. This time we're highlighting towards the viewer or the front instead of highlighting up towards where the light should be hitting. I don't have anything to add, I just needed something to go in between the paint footage. Again with that Terrestrial Titan base coat. It's not quite a mother tone because we haven't mixed it into every single layer on every single color, but it is going to help somewhat homogenize everything. The very quick color breakdown for this one is Terrestrial Titan half steps up into topaz skin, which then half steps again up into opal skin. And this is the same recipe that I've covered in another video. We'll put the link up the top. Pachow. The only thing that I will mention here to keep in mind is that when you're painting very feminine faces, you want to have soft transitions. You also don't want so much contrast. The harsher the contrast, the harsher the lines, the more masculine it's going to appear as. So while it's still true to concentrate on the T section, which is forehead to chin and then cheek to cheek, we still want the colors to spread out a little bit more in a bright glowing radius. And at this point, I was ready to phone it in. So yeah, the flames are getting the airbrush. A lot of people ask me what white do we use through the airbrush so it's not so speckly. Quick answer, just like me, it's not quite white. It's company grey. From here we're just going to throw in a little bit of burning orange, leaving out some of those whiter parts, and then coming in with power node glow. The overspray from this will make a supernova hot orange. And at 1:30 in the morning, I'm going to call it. It's not perfect, but it was fun. And to be completely honest, that's all this stuff has to be. If you were expecting full synthwave, remember, there is a second Unleashed model that comes in this box. As always, a massive thank you to InGames the Army Painter and the best Patreon members in the world. Big love, you filthy heretics.